And good evening and welcome to a special 2-hour edition of Newsmax Prime. I'm Miranda in for both J.D. Hayworth and Steve Malzberg. Normally at this time, the Steve Malzberg show airs. However, since Steve is off tonight, I'm pleased to be your host for the next 2 hours. Now, of prime interest tonight, the fallout from the Brexit vote. World markets have slumped in Europe, America, and Asia as economists predict that the Brexit vote will push the UK into a recession. Meanwhile, here at home, U.S. stocks traded sharply lower with the Dow losing more than 600 points and erasing year-to-date gains and joining the Nasdaq in negative territory for 2016. Meanwhile, Donald Trump was in Scotland earlier today, and his comments echoed a similar theme he's been using on the campaign trail here at home.
People want to take their country back. They want to have independence in a sense, and you see it with Europe, all over Europe. You're going to have more than just, in my opinion, more than just what happened last night. You're going to have, I think, many other cases where they want to take their borders back, they want to take their monetary back, they want to take a lot of things back. They want to be able to have a country again.
And now for this quick reminder, we will be taking your calls for the next hour. The number to call is 1-877-NEWSMAX. Again, that's 1-877-639-7629. Be sure to call in with a short comment or question. We look forward to hearing from you. And for much more on this story, we are pleased to be joined now by the executive editor of Newsmax Media, Ken Chandler. Ken joins us tonight from Newsmax, New York. Thanks for joining us here on Newsmax Prime.
Good evening, Miranda. Great to be with you.
Yeah, how much of a shocker is this to you?
I was completely shocked because when I was going to bed last night, I thought that the vote was going to go the other way. So when I woke up this morning and found the result that Britain had voted to leave the European Union, I was kind of stunned, as I think a lot of people were.
Now, Ken, you have said that you think Brexit was a preview of the presidential elections, and that's very good news for Donald Trump. Why is that?
Right. I think so, because I think what happened in the UK was you saw that the British voters basically repudiated the establishment, the elites, the political ruling class. They basically said to them, we don't trust you, we don't think you've done any good, you haven't helped the situation, the economy is not as good as you say it is, immigration is out of control, we just don't believe you. So, we don't see that there's any benefit to staying in the European Union, and we want out.
Yeah, we talked about how this was such a shock. Former Ambassador Andras Simoni was on this program a couple of days ago, and here's how he described the vote.
This is a vote about the elites. This is the disenchanted Brits who do not want the elites and are disappointed with the elites. So I'm very concerned, and this could be the single most important geopolitical event for decades, and which will harm us all, harm the transatlantic relations.
Do you agree with him? He was basically saying what you were saying, that this is a message to those so-called elites. Do you think that this is going to harm us?
Do I think it's going to harm the United States?
Just globally.
Is that the question?
Yeah, just globally.
Well, I don't think so. No, I don't think it's going to cause any long-term harm. I think it's a short-term phenomenon. I think, England will survive. It's not really going to have any long-term effect on the United States. I do think, though, that this vote has exposed some very ugly fault lines in the UK between the rich and the poor, the educated and people without college degrees, and most importantly, the young and the old. There was a poll out today that showed that 75% of young people voted to stay in the European Union. And a lot of those people are really angry at the older voters who voted out, because they're saying, we're young, it's our future. We wanted to stay in, and you kind of overruled us, and they're angry at that.
Yeah, we talked about how this was kind of a shock. All the polls seem to suggest that the UK was going to stay in the EU, and yet we all seem to get it wrong. Even some of these betting sites thought for sure, 70% thought for sure they were going to stay in the EU. So should we trust polls anymore?
Miranda, I think No, I mean, Miranda, I think this is the key issue, that, polls are not reliable anymore because, maybe it's because pollsters don't know how to reach the voters in the age of cell phones, but I think it's something different. I think that people are not willing to tell pollsters the truth for a variety of reasons. Maybe they're embarrassed, maybe whatever, but the pollsters are not getting the true story.
Ken, how much do you think immigration played in this vote?
In the UK, it was very big, particularly among the older voters, because if you look at the voting patterns, for instance, London, which has a lot of immigrants, they voted to stay in. But in the rest of England, where there is deep concern about the levels of immigration, they voted out. And so it's a very, very big issue. And it's the same thing, I think, is in play in this country. I think this is why this Brexit vote, is really a dress rehearsal for what we're going to see here in November, because the voters were angry. They're angry there, and they're angry here.
I have to get your reaction real quickly. British Prime Minister David Cameron announced that he's resigning. Your reaction to that news?
He had no choice. I feel sorry for him, but he was the one that sort of forced this issue. It was his idea to have a referendum. In retrospect, it wasn't a smart idea, but he did it, and now he has to live with the consequences. And the consequences are he's going to be out, and there'll be a new prime minister within a couple of months.
A lot of changes happening. Ken Chandler, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.